Welcome to OASIS Tokyo, where we explore the lives of professionals living and working in Japan. Working in Japan can be quite different from working in the West and other countries. And so today I would like to ask Eric to share a bit more about his experiences on the ground working in the photography and creative space, and maybe learn a bit more about some of the differences of expectations or rhythm when it comes to production in this space. So obviously, Eric, I know you said you used to work in New York and then you came here for photography in Japan. Is there like particularly large cultural differences within the US and Japan that you've noticed within this industry?
Yeah, there can be. And as a photographer, I kind of was raised in Japan, so I can't make direct comparisons. But what I can say is there's a lot of foreign agencies in Tokyo where you do find yourself working with English speakers, and it can be very international. And you can find yourself on very kind of domestic productions.
Okay.
Maybe if it's like for Toyota or kind of one of those major Japanese brands. What I've noticed is there can be a lot of people on set, a
Right.
lot of opinions. I don't want to say overproduced, but I kind of want to say it's a little overproduced. And you really have to kind of fight for the creative sometimes.
Okay.
I'll give an example. I was on a shoot for an automotive brand. I won't say which one, but we were shooting in California. Often, even for car stuff, it's cheaper to fly us out to some nicer location, Australia or California, and we'll produce it there on beautiful locations.
Oh, fun. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it can be fun, and it's sometimes better. But in this case, we were in a studio and doing this shoot, and they have me on this crane shooting an over-the-top shot of this car.
Wow.
I'm just way up on the ceiling. It's like 11 o'clock at night. We're all really jet lagged. And there's like 30 Japanese guys, from the agency that are all, huddled around this computer watching the frames that I'm shooting. I'm up on the crane. I have my frame figured out. Okay, I push the shutter. How is it, guys? And they'll all kind of shuffle around and like, maybe a little more of this and a little more of that. I think I was up there for like 2 hours,
Wow.
You get a lot of that, and
Okay.
you kind of sometimes you can't help it. But what I would say is when you come into a project, the more that you can kind of take on a role as sort of a creative director, when you can bring ideas to the table and show that you have a vision, then they'll be more willing to trust you
Yeah.
to step back and let you kind of execute that image.
Do you think then, like, because obviously, being raised mostly in the US and then coming to Japan, having the language and the cultural understanding to a bit, I guess, like have the empathy but of both perspectives, but then also, have the communication capability to be able to put forward your ideas. Do you think that that is like the time when that skill kind of comes out and you're able to really showcase that?
In the end, the communication is everything, right? To be able to do that in a respectful way that comes across to people. What I've learned is like I've spoken with car designers, the top car designers of like major brands, and they've said the same thing. It doesn't matter what position you're in, you still have to find a way to communicate why this idea is correct. And sometimes you have to give in, like, okay, I see what you're saying, we're going to do that. Apply that to a certain degree, but keep kind of doing what you were doing. And that's everything. And then you
Yeah.
were in trust, and ultimately having trust is the best thing you can
Yeah.
have when it comes to a creative output.
Yeah.
Once you have that, they'll sit back, and you can do your thing.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think that then, like, obviously, as you mentioned, it can be a little bit like overproduced or maybe a bit like too like directive sometimes, which can be almost counterintuitive to our listeners if you're thinking about a creative project. But is that like the main sort of challenge that you think is that you faced, or has there been other sort of like expectations or even like the rhythm or pace of, I guess, sets that is kind of different to what you thought it might be in Japan?
I think for me, like that's one of the challenges that I more often see. Um, People come into a set with their own checklist that doesn't necessarily apply to the end result. A producer just simply has to make sure that everything gets done. You get all the exact shots, things like that. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. As a creative working with Japanese, what might be different?
Is there anything about like, maybe the way that a client would have like a timeline or like the goal that they would like to achieve, the visual they'd like to achieve, the location that they'd like to use, maybe the people that they think they need to bring to the set, which maybe, I don't know if that varies to what you would expect for them or need from them?
I think more often than not, they have more detailed timelines. Just very A-type Japanese. It's a little bit of a stereotype, but it's kind of true. We see a little bit of more of that, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not. But compared to other countries, or working in Thailand, where they can be very professional but also very laid back, there's kind of sometimes a nicer balance that you can see
Yeah.
other places.
Conversely, then, obviously, with the structure, I imagine that it can make it quite easy to understand then what is expected from you. Like, other things that you would say are positives, that are different, that in a good way, about this sort of creative, like design space in Japan, that maybe you wish other countries or cultures would adapt as well?
There's structure there, and
Right, okay.
kind of less of a guessing game sometimes.
Okay.
So less mistakes or accidents happening on set because everyone's super aligned. You've had so many meetings, and we all know exactly what we have to do. So that element exists, for better or worse. It's there, and that can be a good thing too.
Yeah, fantastic. I think from my experience as well, I've not been working any creative spaces, but having sort of like at least the goal orientation and then like the steps in place makes it a lot easier to like problem shoot as
Yeah.
well. Like when things don't seem to be going right, rather than getting to the end goal and then like turning around and showing this final product and then people have been like, that's actually really not what we were looking for.
So what you're saying is you're A-type then?
Yes,
Okay, there we
I
go.
definitely
Got it.
am. Definitely am, even
That's
though, yeah, I was raised in the UK, but I definitely would say I've picked up that Japanese heritage from my mother.
Nice. It works.
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously, with Japan having its own sort of cultural expectations and I guess even rules for this type of industry, it's quite difficult to sort of master that and, work within that space. And so one actual project that I know you mentioned before that we'd like to talk about today is your like road trip project with Porsche. And so in this next episode, we'd like to explore more about that.